Hi, I'm Mary Gushin, and I want to welcome you to Mary's Kitchen and Garden. This is show number 10, and I am so happy to be here with you today for the celebration. We're going to have tailgating segment today. We're going to have chili, 2 different kinds, and also we're going to show you another segment of the UT Gardens with James Newbern, the Assistant Director.
Now we're in the Helping Hands Kitchen Garden. To the left is the Enabling Garden, and to the right, kind of where James is standing, is the Kitchen Garden. James, let's start with the Kitchen Garden.
All right, this has been a great fun to get this garden up and running. And we had to move our kitchen, our vegetable garden because of some construction, and we've just created this wonderful fantasy garden with the raised beds, and people ask us, why is it purple? And you know my response to that? Why not?
Why not? Gotta go with a different color.
Actually, purple, is a wonderful color to have in the garden because everything goes with it.
Yes.
The dark greens, the reds, the yellows, the oranges.
And you've got a couple different shades of purple, lavender.
We sure
and
do.
Deep purple.
We sure do.
Why don't we walk through and
Sure.
look at some of the plants?
We have our summer garden is just settling down now. You see the tomatoes are ripening, and we have heirloom varieties as well as standard varieties that are available. You see our sweet potatoes have just overflowed their bounds, but we also have basil and okra, which we just love. But we have a wonderful program, Mary, where we are working with the UT Culinary Institute, and Chef Anton over there purchases vegetables from us for his students to use in their cooking classes. And so that's a wonderful partnership that we've developed with them.
And I'll have to, maybe we can get them involved and feature them on the show along with
Oh,
the gardens.
absolutely, because he has done cooking shows. Because a lot of people need to know, well, if I grow all of this stuff at home, because we want to buy locally and eat local produce, grow it ourselves, what do I do with it? Exactly. So there's an education factor. Thanks to you, you're trying to...
That's what I'm trying to do.
Yes, absolutely. So we appreciate what you're teaching us on the cooking end, and we'll teach what's going on the growing end.
And I have a question. This is a question I have about tomatoes that I'm sure I'm not the only person. When the tomatoes start to have the bottom leaves that are turning brown, it doesn't look like you do anything with those, and I have a tendency to trim them off. Is that a good thing?
It is a good thing, and we're a little bit behind on that. So
just wanted to check.
yes.
James, I see here that we have a rain barrel that's been designed and painted by one of your students.
Right, some of our volunteers. We do want to, this is a teaching garden. So not only do we want to show people how to garden and how to grow vegetables, but also how to garden sustainably.
Yes.
And we're just now completing this garden, and we don't quite have the gutters on our garden sheds yet, but they will catch the water, and it will come down into the rain barrel, and then you will have access at the faucet here to use the runoff as a watering source. Right.
Yes.
And so, certainly we're not going to get a lot of rain off of this little garden shed, but the point is that we can showcase how to have it done in your own place. We also have our recycling bins here for composting, so that we have the 3 stages, so that we have to keep it moist, let it get hot, and then turn it, and we move it down to the next stage. So you see our first bin is relatively full, so we're keeping that nice and moist and hot. And Then we'll move it down to the second bin, start all over, and then the third bin we'll turn it, and then that will be our compost that we can add back into the garden, both for nutritional purposes and for, weed suppression.
Right. So now we're in the enabling garden. James, first, how did you come up with naming it the enabling garden?
Well, it really is a garden that showcases what can be done so that people can continue gardening or be enabled to garden with limited mobility or with other issues that might otherwise limit their ability to garden. So what you'll find here in this garden is this raised bench that is high enough that a wheelchair can pull up and go right underneath it, and also that it's perfectly one arm's reach across so that it can be accessed from both sides, but still have a nice plot to garden in. You see we have this wonderful thyme planted here as a border plant. Other aspects of this garden, we have a trough garden right over here. And this is, again, something that a wheelchair can run up to. It's padded on the side, so there's no need to be concerned about getting hurt or anything like that.
It's very user-friendly.
Very user-friendly. And it also has drainage in the bottom of it that will then be taken away, and you can fill a bucket full of your runoff, again, like a rain barrel. Vertical gardening is also a way to enable people to have an easier way to garden. And here we have cucumbers growing up on just a simple, this is like the reinforcement fence that you use in construction. We've made this trellis out of it, really simple. Any homeowner could do it, very limited space. It's also a good idea for vertical gardening with people that have very small backyards.
Yes.
For instance, I live in the inner city in 4th and Gill neighborhood. My backyard space is of a very much valued, So this is one way to expand your gardening space. And you see we have some cucumbers in here that are doing quite nicely.
Yes. And also it's nice for if you have a problem bending.
Absolutely.
Because I have that problem. And we actually have our beans now growing up on bamboo.
Right. And you saw some of those in our vegetable garden over there. That's also why we have these taller containers, because, again, you could plant them with annuals, you could plant them with vegetables. It doesn't matter, but it gives you something that you are able to garden in. Behind that, we have the vertical garden that our landscape contractor came up with. Again, it was real creative. It's just kind of a louvered effect with the panels, and you see we have strawberries growing in it. Really, I do want to emphasize that it's not so much what you garden. Again, it can be flowers, it can be vegetables, whatever you like to garden. It's just important that we enable people to get out there and do what they love to do.
It's a passion. When you have something that you really enjoy, it gives you a lot of freedom to do what you like as far as gardening, because there's so many different ways to garden, and it's such a reward.
Right.
Whether it's flowers or vegetables.
And so often as people reach retirement age and get older and finally have the time to do a lot of things, sometimes they're not quite as able as they were when they were younger. And so you want to give them that opportunity. My grandmother was digging in the dirt till she was, 89 years old, and it did a lot of good for her. And so these are methods that people can get ideas about how to create that environment.
I think that's awesome.
Great.
And like you said, you don't have to be 89 to
right.
not want to stoop.
Exactly.
All right, when we come back, we're going to go and show you another garden.
Buy local. Buy fresh at the Dixie Lee Farmers Market at Renaissance Farragut. Join us every Saturday morning from 9 to noon for locally grown produce, cheeses, herbs, potted plants, baked goods, pottery, handmade crafts, and more. This is our 3rd season, and the Dixie Lee Farmers Market is still making it easier for you to buy fresh locally grown produce and fresh local goods, all offered from Tennessee farmers and artisans. The Dixie Lee Farmers Market, 12740 Kingston Pike at Renaissance Farragut.
Spending a few minutes of your day preparing a meal for your family is really simple. I'm Jeffrey D'Alejandro, partner of the Crown and Goose in the Old City. I want to reach out to local folks and teach them how to cook a deliciously simple meal, how to choose good local products, and where to find them. Let's bring simplicity back into the kitchen. Join me every Friday at 3 for Marble City Eats only on KnoxIvy.com.
Thank you to MetroPulse readers everywhere for voting Knox Ivy the best new business for 2010. We love our role as an active partner in telling the world about the people, ideas, and activities that shape East Tennessee. Cheers!
Hi, I'm Mary Gushin, and I'd like to welcome you to my new show, Mary's Kitchen and Garden. This show is all about healthy eating, which means using ingredients from your garden and market that are fresh and in season. The recipes that I'll show you are easy to make and not too expensive. Everyone is on a budget, and I want to show you how to cook without using preservatives. Healthy, flavorful meals that you and your family will love. And remember, this is your show. Email me with your suggestions about cooking and gardening for the show, plus recipes that you would like me to try. Join me for Mary's Kitchen and Garden, only on KnoxIvy.com. The first recipe that I'm going to show you today is a black bean ground beef chili. And this recipe will be on my blog, so you can go there to get all of the ingredients and the amounts. What I've already done is caramelized onions, green pepper from my garden, and also some jalapeno peppers. And they are ready to now go to, or I'm ready now to go to the next step. The next step is adding the ground beef, which I have already cooked and browned. Just want to put that right in. It's really good to use a very lean ground beef so that you don't have a lot of the fat. And actually, that can be less expensive because sometimes when you have the 80-20 type of ground beef, 20% of it is fat, and so you lose all that as far as you're paying for it, and when you brown it up, you'll find that you've lost a lot of what you have paid for. I've mixed that together, and now I'm going to add the black beans. And now I'm going to start to add the spices. Lots of spices go into chili. So the first thing is some sugar with a couple tablespoons of chili powder. And then I have a little bit of cumin, about a teaspoon. And then this is a chili and garlic salt that I purchased at the dollar store. So I'm just going to add a little bit of salt. The onions and jalapeno and green pepper mixture was already seasoned with salt and pepper, but I'm going to add a little bit more. And then about a half teaspoon of red pepper flakes. Sprinkle those over the top. And this recipe also calls for cocoa powder. If you've ever been out west as far as in Arizona or in New Mexico, even Mexico, you will find that they use a lot of cocoa powder in their dishes. And a lot of times you'll see mole as the main descriptive word for the recipe. So I'm going to stir this all together. And you can see that everything looks really nice as far as the colors of the black beans along with the red and green peppers and the jalapenos. I also have some cilantro and also oregano, both of these from the garden. Nice and fresh, which will really add to the flavor of the dish. stir that together. Then I'm going to add some tomatoes, these are petite diced tomatoes, which is nice because they're easy as far as eating in a bowl. And then some tomato sauce. Stir those together. As you can see, it's thickening it up nicely. And then I have 6 cups of chicken broth. So now what I'm going to do is bring this to a boil. And while this is getting heated and then it's going to simmer, I am going to take a break and come back, and I'll have ready for you the chicken white bean chili recipe that was given to me by my best friend Lisa.
Tired of mulching every year? Use Magic Mulch instead. It's an eco-friendly alternative to traditional mulch that lasts for up to 10 years. Looks just like wood mulch and is odor-free. Get 10% off. Go to magicmulch.net right now.
Buy local. Buy fresh at the Dixie Lee Farmers Market at Renaissance Farragut. Join us every Saturday morning from 9 to noon for locally grown produce, cheeses, herbs, potted plants, baked goods, pottery, handmade crafts, and more. This is our 3rd season, and the Dixie Lee Farmers Market is still making it easier for you to buy fresh locally grown produce and fresh local goods, all offered from Tennessee farmers and artisans. The Dixie Lee Farmers Market, 12740 Kingston Pike at Renaissance Farragut.
I'm Don Sproles.
And I'm Karen Sproles.
We are the owners of the Lunchbox Restaurants.
Our cooking here is a lot like you would do in your own home.
It's like having you in our living room, having you in our dining room.
We do everything from scratch. All of our baking, all of our cooking is done from scratch. We know what's in our product. Our catering services are rather unique in that we're totally customized. We've done dinners for 2 people that a husband will pick up and surprise his wife with and take home. And we've done 1,500 box breakfasts. We can produce a wonderful event regardless of what your budget is.
We have customers that we feed today that we fed June 3rd, 1981. I think we can take a great deal of satisfaction out of that. We enjoy working together and have continued to do that all these years.
Want to host or produce your own show? Knox Ivy is the solution. Email info@knoxivy.com for more information.
The black bean chili is boiling, and the reason for that is because unfortunately it's a little bit thin. Now there's all sorts of ways to take care of it. You could put in more beans, you could put in more ground beef, but actually boiling it a little bit is letting out some of that moisture. So I'm going to try that. If anything else, I can adjust the beans and the ground beef, and I'll make sure that when I put the recipe on the blog that it will be right so that you don't have the same mistake that I did. But you know, that's how us cooks are. Sometimes you just make little errors, but you have to be flexible and you can make it all work in the end. So what I've done now is I've started the turkey chili, which has the onions caramelizing with some olive oil and a little bit of black pepper, and also the sea salt that has a little bit of the chili spice in it. So you can see that it's looking really nice, starting to soften up. And what I'm going to do now is add some garlic. And you can see in the background the red or the black bean chili is really going to town there, as far as I've got it on a nice strong boil to get rid of some of that moisture. So I have mixed together the garlic and the onion. And my girlfriend Lisa, she lives in Michigan, which is where I'm from, and she is a Michigan State alumni, and I'm a U of M alumni, which I know I have to be careful about that down in Tennessee, but it is what it is. And she has taken her white bean chicken chili to her tailgating parties up at Michigan State. So I thought this was really appropriate to use her recipe. It's so easy to make. You're basically putting everything into a pot and letting it cook, which is really what chili is, if you look at all the different recipes. So next what we're gonna do is add the chicken, and then we're gonna add some herbs. So I have about 2 pounds of white meat chicken. This is the chicken from the last show, because we taped 2 shows in one morning, that I have now cut up and shredded. My husband John did this for me. And I'm going to put all that into the onion mixture. And that is the timer for the potatoes. Don't worry about that. This is how we do things here. We do a show every 2 weeks. We do 2 different segments, or I should say 2 different episodes. So if you're seeing anything that looks like, wow, that looks like what she had going on with the previous show, that's probably why, because it is indeed, we're taping 2 shows every other Saturday. So I've mixed this thoroughly together with the onions. And now I'm going to start to add the spices. I'm going to turn down the other chili a little bit. We have some oregano. And about 1/2 teaspoon of cumin. That's ground cumin. And just 1/8 teaspoon of ground cloves. This is going to give it an extra special flavor. And then we have a little bit of red pepper. And she called for cayenne pepper, but I'm actually going to use some chili powder, so that has the cayenne pepper in it. About 1 tablespoon of chili powder. And then also some chopped green chilies. These would be great to be able to have out of your garden if you can do that. But if not, you can find them in the Mexican aisle of the grocery store. So I'm going to mix all that together. I'm going to turn down this chicken a little bit, or the black bean chili. This is really coating up nicely too. You can see the chicken's getting a little bit darker from the chili powder. And now we're going to add about 2 cups of chicken broth. And you know, you can gauge this, because sometimes you just end up having a little bit less of one ingredient versus a little bit more of another. So kind of gauge it to see exactly how much broth you need. That was about 2 cups. So now I'm going to add 3 cans of Great Northern white beans. And I can then adjust the chicken broth as needed. This way I won't have too much. I want to stir all that together. Oh, it smells really good too. You can really smell the onions with the chicken and the spices, the fresh oregano. That came out of my garden. Let's add a little bit more chicken broth. And this is the low sodium, no MSG, fat-free chicken broth that I recommend to everyone to use instead of the fat chicken broth, because it just brings down the calories and it cooks exactly the same. It has the same great flavor. So you can see that this looks nice and thick. So what we're going to do now is bring this to a boil, just like we did with the other chili, and let it simmer. And when we come back, we're going to plate it up and give it a try.
Want your business to be seen by thousands daily? Knox Ivy is the solution. Email info@knoxivy.com for more information.
How are you using social media to connect people to your business?
More than 1.6 million people are actively engaged on Facebook right now.
What are your regular clients saying about you?
Generation Y now outnumbers the baby boomers, and 96% of them are using social networking sites.
Could these be your potential clients? Since 2000, there has been a 130% jump in the number of Americans who use the internet.
Local results are integral to all major search engines.
And advertising online means you're right next to your point of sale.
Knox Ivy offers local businesses a cost-effective way to advertise.
We can help integrate your advertising with social media.
And optimize your exposure. Knox Ivy, new answers for new media.
Hello, I'm Michael Lott.
And I'm Angel Howard.
And I'm Angie Collins.
And we're two angels and a Michael. Hey angels, let's tell them about the show.
Well, this is a body, mind, spirit wellness show meant to invigorate you from the inside out.
You know, spiritual stuff can be really serious, and we're about bringing the light side of enlightenment.
So that's great, and so what? So what could you learn from us? Why do you want to watch our show?
First of all, this is not a one-way street. We want to know and hear what's on your mind, body, and soul, so please email us your questions.
We are presenting topics through a holistic point of view using music, movement, nutrition, intuition, and spirituality, adding a little bit of humor to make it easy and fun.
You will be motivated and uplifted to open to change for your individual benefit while realizing we are all one. When one is uplifted, we're all uplifted.
So enjoy.
Empower.
Inspire.
Today!
Both of the chilies are simmering on my cooktop, and I wanted to talk a minute about how to thicken up a chili, because as you saw earlier in the segment, it looked like my chili was pretty thin. So what I did during the break is I added 2 12-ounce cans of tomato paste, and you can see that it's really thickened up nicely. And I also added 1 more can of beans. So between the 3 additions, I was able to get this chili to where I want it to be as far as the thickness. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit, put it in my bowl, and you also want to kind of let it cool a little bit, because you can see it's really steaming here, and you want to be able to taste it. If it's really, really hot, sometimes you can't even taste the flavor. So I'm going to put it down for a second. And here is the chicken chili that looks awesome. Lots of nice chicken chunks along with the white beans. Lisa's recipe has turned out wonderfully. I didn't need to add anything at all as far as thickening. So I'm going to take a little bit of that. It's nice to use a ladle. Again, it's really, really hot, so I'm going to let it sit here for a second. And I like to use sour cream and also cheese with my chili. I think it just really entices the flavor. This is an all-natural sour cream that is from Kroger's, so there's no added preservatives. Again, I really try not to have preservatives or additives, and it's amazing what can happen sometimes in dairy products. You think that you're getting just sour cream or plain yogurt, but what you can find if you look at the ingredients is a lot of times there's fillers, which is the additives and the preservatives. So again, it takes just a second when you're at the grocery store to double check your what you're buying to make sure that there's nothing added to it. So I'm going to take a dollop of sour cream on each chili. And then I also have some of the habanero cheese that I found at Kroger's. Just a sprinkling of the cheese on each one. And then I also, real quick, just want to grab my cilantro, because cilantro is so good in chili. So I'm going to put a little bit of garnish on top. Doesn't that look nice? It's so pretty. Both of them look really, really nice as far as a presentation. So let me try each one. It's cooled off now. You know, I think this one could use a little bit more spice. That's something else that you want to know as far as when you're making chili, and also any type of like tomato sauce, spaghetti sauce, is that sometimes you have to adjust the seasoning and also wait for a second after you try it, especially with chili, because sometimes the smokiness can get into the back of your throat and you have a little bit of a delayed reaction as far as the spice. So I think I'm going to add though a little bit of heat to the red chili. Let me try Lisa's. It looks great. I think the spices are right on this one. It has a little bit of heat, but not too much. The cilantro is really good. And plus, I let it cool off a little bit. Like I said, I think that's important. Again, sometimes you have to make the adjustment as far as spices go. What you really want to remember is to have what your family likes, because what they like is what they will eat. I want to thank you today for joining me on my first tailgating and number 10 show. I'm very happy, like I said before, to be able to be with you. Please contact me on my blog. That's where all the recipes will be. And also, if you have any tailgating ideas, I would really love to have your recipes because I will highlight them on my show. And go Vols! Hi, I'm Mary Gushin, and I want to welcome you to Mary's Kitchen and Garden. It's a beautiful fall football morning here in East Tennessee, and we're going to have a great time today. We're going to look at the tomatoes that I still have growing in the garden, and then we're going to make some great tailgating recipes. In the garden, and what I want to show you is how we have put the tomatoes on bamboo stakes to keep them growing upwards. And what you're going to see is that these tomato plants are actually taller than I am, which really says a lot, especially on September 14th. It's amazing that we still have tomato plants, but we do, and we still have the fruit growing from the vines. So as you can see, we've taken bamboo and we stripped off the leaves, and then we have tied them together, and it's working out great. You can see that I've got some metal cages here, but next year I'm not going to use them at all. I'm just going to use the bamboo because you can really let the tomato plants keep growing taller, and it also gives them a lot of air, and it's so much easier to work with the bamboo than it is with the metal. The other thing that you can do is that you can clip off all of these brown looking leaves because they're not going to bear fruit, and it will then give even more air and sunlight to the plants. So I'm just going to drop those, but that's not what you want to do. Once the show's over, I will pick them all up and put them in the compost bin because I don't want them laying on the dirt as far as any type of fungus or anything that they could have. We're going to walk over here, and you can see that these are still all fruiting with green tomatoes. These are all heirloom tomato plants that we bought from a farm north of Powell, and they're just doing great. We've also got some pepper plants. Those are cherry peppers that are just little like cherry tomatoes, except they're peppers. And we've got a couple other pepper plants that are still giving us some peppers. And then we've got the marigolds that have kind of come across. The other thing I want to show you too is that we're getting ready to expand the garden. And that means that we're going to do this in a no-till method where you lay down newspaper and then compost and mulch. It will kill all of the grass. And then next year you just poke through the newspaper to plant your seedlings. And you can see here that I've got a log that's showing you where we're going to expand to. So the next show, we will focus on that to show you how it's done. We're going to walk around here so I can pick one of my heirloom tomatoes. And I like to use the scissors to cut my tomatoes off of the vine because I don't want to damage the main stalk. So I'm just going to cut them off. This is an heirloom. You can tell because of that, we know that because of the plant, but also it's just different. It has some really pretty color as far as the yellow and the pink. So when we come back, we're going to go into the kitchen and we're going to make buffalo chicken wings, chicken dip, and have a great morning making some tailgating recipes. We're in the kitchen and we're ready to start making our great tailgating recipes. Buffalo chicken wings are one of the most popular tailgating dishes that you can serve at your tailgate. But you know, they're really fattening. Most of them are fried and then they have a high sugar content sauce on them. So I have found two different recipes that cut down on the calories. The first one is a buffalo chicken dip, which actually is what we're going to make first, and it's baked in the oven. And then the second one is grilled chicken wings that doesn't have the deep frying that the traditional wings do. And what you're going to be amazed about is how easy these recipes are. So the first one we're going to make is the buffalo chicken dip. And what you want to do is you want to take your cooking spray, which I've talked about quite a bit as far as how easy it is to use a spray. It helps in cleanup and it also helps in serving. So you want to spray your 9x13 baking dish, put that aside, and then we're going to combine shredded chicken. This is 3 breasts of shredded chicken. And this recipe actually came to me from my friend Jennifer, who is from North Carolina. And she also gave me the shrimp cake recipe and the tomato pie, which has just been awesome. Everyone just loves it. So to the chicken, you add 2 cups of shredded cheddar cheese. And then this is 12 ounces of softened cream cheese. And then 1 cup of ranch. And 1/2 cup of chipotle sauce. You could also use hot sauce if you wanted, but I happen to have chipotle sauce, so I wanted to use that. So now all you do is combine this. Mainly you need to kind of press the cream cheese, which I've actually already had out for about a half an hour so that it would soften, into the mixture. It's nice to use a big bowl here so that you don't have spillage like I had a second ago with the shredded cheese. And really all you're doing is coating the chicken with the other ingredients. And then we're going to put it into a baking dish. This is really nice because it could be made ahead of time and taken to a tailgate. It'd be also fun to take this to a party. We're going to serve it with taco chips at the end of the show. And you can see it's just going all together and it's so easy to make. The chicken breast I actually baked at a slow temperature along with some pork that I had. So what I ended up doing was baking it in the oven at 200 degrees, which took several hours, but that was okay because the pork took several hours too because I made pulled pork sandwiches. And it was a way actually to conserve the energy because I was doing 2 things at one time. And then you let it cool and then you could just pull the chicken right apart. Another shortcut would be to go to Kroger's or to Whole Foods and buy a rotisserie chicken, and then you would be able to shred it already have been, cooked and prepared. So that's all been put together. So now you want to take your pan or your baking dish, and then you just want to spoon it into the baking dish. Put that aside. And then you want to take your spoon and push it into the pan just to even it out so it'll slowly cook and be even. And I told you this is really easy to make. Rinse off my hands. So now we're going to put this in the oven at a 350-degree preheated temperature, uncovered, and then we want to set the timer for 30 minutes. And when we come back, we're going to do the grilled marinade for the chicken wings and also a layered bean dip.
Buy local, buy fresh at the Dixie Lee Farmers Market at Renaissance Farragut. Join us every Saturday morning from 9 to noon for locally grown produce, cheeses, herbs, potted plants, baked goods, pottery, handmade crafts, and more. This is our third season, and the Dixie Lee Farmers Market is still making it easier for you to buy fresh locally grown produce and fresh local goods, all offered from Tennessee farmers and artisans. The Dixie Lee Farmers Market, 12740 Kingston Pike at Renaissance Farragut.
Spending a few minutes of your day preparing a meal for your family is really simple. I'm Jeffrey DeAlejandro, partner of the Crown and Goose in the Old City. I want to reach out to local folks and teach them how to cook a deliciously simple meal, how to choose good local products, and where to find them. Let's bring simplicity back into the kitchen. Join me every Friday at 3 for Marble City Eats only on KnoxIvy.com.
Thank you to MetroPulse readers everywhere for voting Knox Ivy the best new business for 2010. We love our role as an active partner in telling the world about the people, ideas, and activities that shape East Tennessee. Cheers!
Hi, I'm Mary Gushit, and I'd like to welcome you to my new show, Mary's Kitchen and Garden. This show is all about healthy eating, which means using ingredients from your garden and market that are fresh and in season. The recipes that I'll show you are easy to make and not too expensive. Everyone is on a budget, and I want to show you how to cook without using preservatives. Healthy, flavorful meals that you and your family will love. And remember, this is your show. Email me with your suggestions about cooking and gardening for the show, plus recipes that you would like me to try. Join me for Mary's Kitchen and Garden, only on KnoxIvy.com. So we're now ready to make the marinade for the chicken wings that we're going to grill. The first thing that you want to do is melt 6 tablespoons of butter, which I've already done as far as saving some time for the show. And then you want to add to that a 1/2 cup of honey, and then also a cup of hot sauce. And I'm using the Chipotle